Hello and welcome to the Kim Iversen Show. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this someplace other than Rumble, this stream will shut down after the first segment. Then the show gets better because we can finally cover the topics we haven't been free to cover. So you're definitely going to want to be there. If you aren't there yet, that link is down below. All right, coming up on tonight's show, World Economic Forum, climate lockdowns could soon be a thing of our future. We'll talk about that. Plus, the Died Suddenly directors join us to talk about their shocking film. We also talked to Garland Nixon about how the prolonged war in Ukraine is actually helping China and Russia. And Tara Reid joins us to talk about the latest Epstein case being shut down by the governor of the Virgin Islands. That's coming up. Are we headed for more lockdowns? This time not for COVID, but instead for climate. This video was trending on Twitter, and of course, critics are calling it a conspiracy theory. So I had to take a look at this myself to discover whether or not this is real and credible. So I headed to the website, WBSCD.org, for myself. Now, WBSCD stands for the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And I did a quick search for the article itself that was shown in that video, and it popped up. Here it is, Avoiding a Climate Lockdown. Now, before I read part of this article, there are some important bits of information. First, the author, Mariana Mazzucato, is an American economics professor who taught at various universities, including NYU. She's now with the University College London. She's also been an economic advisor for various European governments like the UK and Finland. But most important, as you can see here, she's with the World Economic Forum. Also, the WBSCD, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, that placed the article on the website, has many members in its leadership who are also in the WEF. You can see this is the executive committee chair. There's also the vice committee executive chairs who are also in the World Economic Forum. So plus, let's look at the member companies of this supposedly sustainable organization. You know, they're promoting sustainability, but some of these biggest companies that are in this membership are actually the biggest companies in the world, many of which are arguably reliant on the world not being exactly sustainable. Companies like Chevron and BP, as well as many companies who benefit from lockdowns, companies like Amazon, which you can see there. Now, this should give you an idea of what this organization is about and whose agenda it actually represents. Okay, so let's take a look now at the article itself. Here it is. As COVID-19 spread earlier this year, governments introduced lockdowns in order to prevent a public health emergency from spinning out of control. In the near future, the world may need to resort to lockdowns again, this time to tackle climate emergency, shifting Arctic ice, raging wildfires in western U.S. states and elsewhere, and methane leaks in the North Sea are all warning signs that we are approaching a tipping point on climate change, when protecting the future of civilization will require dramatic interventions. Under a climate lockdown, governments would limit private vehicle use, ban consumption of red meat, and impose extreme energy-saving measures while fossil fuel companies would have to stop drilling. To avoid such a scenario, we must overhaul our economic structures and do capitalism differently. Okay, so what does she mean by do capitalism differently? Well, in the article, she links to a PDF file titled A Smart Green European Way of Life, The Path for Growth, Jobs, and Well-Being. Now, the article, when you go through it, isn't specific on what exactly they mean as a green way of life. They just say everyone will need a drastic lifestyle change and allude to what we've been hearing from the WEF, you will own nothing and you will be happy. They also point to Europe and say the Europeans are more willing to try out new ways of life, and so they make a good testing ground. I'm sure the Europeans love that. As you know, we saw much harsher lockdowns and much longer lockdowns throughout Europe. It was where they unleashed COVID passports first and wouldn't allow people to travel anywhere without them. So take a look at this. This is a video put out by the World Economic Forum called 15-Minute Cities. And the idea is, you know, you're going to have everything within this 15-minute radius. Look at this. The aim is to cut car use, resulting in fewer CO2 emissions and cleaner air. Now, this is a really appealing idea, right? 15-minute cities. I like the idea personally of everything being within a 15-minute radius of my house. But I don't like them if I'm told I can't leave, right? So like the lockdowns during the pandemic, if I wanted to stay locked up to hide from the virus, that should be my choice, not the government's. Same with vaccines. I like the idea of a vaccine that stops me from catching a virus. Of course, we don't have one like that for COVID, but either way, I don't want them forced on me. Is this idea of a climate lockdown a conspiracy? Maybe. Just like maybe the idea of mandating vaccines and vaccine passports was once considered a conspiracy. They ended up not being. Now, climate lockdowns are a real possibility. We keep hearing about the climate catastrophe and how it's an existential crisis, so much so that governments have been imposing harsh measures like fertilizer bans that have led to the shutting down of family farms and even starvation from a lack of food, which seems to defeat the stated purpose. We're trying to save lives from climate disasters, so let's make people suffer and perhaps even die with draconian policies like lockdowns and reduced food supply. Doesn't make sense. Now, I'm all about cleaning up the environment and sustainability. I don't think anybody's really against that. Many of us want the same things, but the problems are the ideas coming from these elites in the World Economic Forum. Their ideas of the Great Reset, telling us what it takes to stay safe and be happy, when in the end what they've proposed has only benefited the rich and the powerful. The COVID pandemic showed us this. But they'll point to the COVID pandemic and the initial lockdowns and how well they worked at reducing carbon emissions. Do you remember this? I mean, look at this, before and after photos showing dramatic effects lockdowns had on pollution around the world. Look at these photographs. They're going to point to this. They're going to point to these photographs and they're going to say, it works, so let's do it again. You can't leave. You're in lockdown. All right, let's talk about getting some investments in gold. With the way things are going, you might need it. The Biden administration seems to be turning a blind eye to inflation, making securing our savings all the more important. When you finally had enough of the games the government is playing with your savings and retirement, diversify into gold with Birch Gold. I'm tired personally of my money being impacted by stupid decisions by the leaders in Washington. For over 5,000 years, gold has withstood inflation, geopolitical turmoil, and stock market crashes. And here's the great news, you can still get it. In fact, you can own gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to do. Visit birchgold.com/Kim to claim your free info kit on gold. With almost 20 years experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metals IRAs, precious metals IRAs, Birch Gold can help you. Protect yourself with gold today by visiting birchgold.com/Kim with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews. Secure your future with gold. Start today with a free info kit. There's zero obligation to make this request. Just visit birchgold.com/Kim. That's birchgold.com/Kim. All right, coming up next on the show, we do have the directors of Died Suddenly. So if you are watching this anywhere other than Rumble, you're going to need to make that shift now because things are getting spicy. Things are getting too hot for the YouTube censors. So we're going to be heading over to Rumble. Be sure to join us over there. That is happening right now. I'm shutting this down right now. See you over there.